and welcome to another episode of Elevator Pitch. As always, this is Altair, and in front of me is the beautiful
Hazel.
Yes, and we're here with our second episode of Binge Week. As you know, we like to just throw everything, the concept of this podcast, through the window.
For the second season in a row.
Exactly. And
not all the way.
Exactly. Like every fourth episode.
Exactly.
We ditch Andres Hagedorn.
Our other friend, if you hadn't been listening.
Exactly. And it's just the two of us discussing The Sopranos. None of us have seen the show, so we discussed 3 episodes at once. Mm-hmm. And last week we had the first 3 episodes of season 2.
Yep.
And we have...
So if you want to go back and listen to them, feel free. If you want to, I don't know, maybe you've seen it or you want to rewatch it or you're like us.
Exactly.
I don't know why I said or you're like us. Or you're like us and haven't seen the show before and you want to watch it with us, then feel free. Or, if you've never seen it, you can also listen to it.
Exactly. So the
if you can keep up with us trying to remember everyone's names.
Oh yes, I'm so sorry. Yeah. But that's why you have to watch it with us, so that you know. The dude with the cannoli. Of course, the dude with the cannoli.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, I've been watching it with you. I watch all the episodes, and I still have to look up several people's names, particularly Tony's associates. I can't always remember their names.
That's the other thing. I think that it's too many of them, and they all look, with the apologies to all the cast of The Sopranos, who I know are a huge fan of this podcast.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure they're listening.
Exactly, they're listening. But a lot of them look very, very similar. Like I think Pussy looks exactly like this other heavyweight dude, and the only one that stands out is Christopher, because
he's young and he's thin, on the thinner side,
and he has like a proper storyline within the show. So I think it's a little bit easier to keep up with him. But the other ones have maybe a littler. Can you say littler?
A smaller role.
A smaller.
Gone with the completely wrong words. It's small.
A smaller role. But anyway, today we are discussing episodes 4, 5, and 6.
Excellent.
Yes, I know how to count. I might not know words, but I know numbers.
So sit down with your popcorn, I'm sure.
Or cannoli.
Ooh, cannoli.
Yep.
I haven't had a cannoli in a while. I would love some.
You can send us your cannoli. Oh, no, that sounds weird. You can send us your cannoli.
That can be misinterpreted, can't it?
We'll get our own cannolis.
Thank you, though. You can send us your recipes if you have cannoli recipes.
Yes.
Just don't send food in the mail.
Exactly. That's true. Exactly, but go to. We're gonna do a special post. I have to remember that. And you are gonna leave us in the comments on our Instagram at elevator_pod your cannoli recipe, if you have a cannoli recipe or any kind of Italian recipe.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, and we'll make it, and maybe
we'll make a spin-off, and then it will just be us filming ourselves making these recipes.
Yes, exactly. That's an idea. Okay, so shall we start talking about food? Stop talking about food.
Then let's start, shall we? Let's start. Let's just veer towards the food. We can get to Sopranos later.
Let's stop talking about food and let's start talking about The Sopranos.
Well, I mean, the main reason why we're talking about food is episode 4, they go to Italy.
They go to Italy.
And I was so jealous. I mean, we only recently went to Italy, but I'd love nothing more than to go again.
You should be able to go every weekend to Italy.
That would
just
be
to
amazing.
eat, just to have lunch or dinner or gelato.
So many gelatos. It's amazing. And then they're open until like 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
So to all our Italian friends that are listening,
We appreciate you.
we appreciate you.
Your culture and your food.
Yes.
Not your mafia connections.
No,
Which is what this episode is about, unfortunately.
exactly. Yes, but then Tony goes to Naples.
Naples,
Can you say
yes.
that? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it starts off, again, sort of tongue-in-cheek, I would think, because they start off watching The Godfather, don't they?
Ah, that's true.
And
yes.
talking about their favourite scenes, which I thought was quite funny.
Yeah, that is true. That is quite funny how I think one of my favorite aspects of the show is how, like, I don't know if self-aware is the right word, but how they play into this whole, it's also maybe even like a little meta about like, okay, like let's watch audiovisual content of like mobsters in this show, which is audiovisual content about mobsters. So I always
But
like
also,
that.
aren't there a lot of actors, I think, that or was it Goodfellas?
Goodfellas, like Melfi, I think she's in Goodfellas. Yes,
Because I read
yes.
somewhere that there's a big crossover between, I think, Goodfellas, the actors in Goodfellas, and The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Not The Godfather, sorry.
That is true. That is true. But I think they are watching The Godfather.
The Godfather,
in the beginning. Yes.
Or is it The Godfather Part 2?
I think it.
Does he kill? Because they made a reference to Fredo.
Fredo,
Does he kill him in the first or the? I've only seen the first part.
Yeah, I think then in the second, because I think they quoted, "You broke my heart, Fredo."
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that happens in the second.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, not Martin. Francis, if you, I know you're listening to this podcast, so you can also correct us if we're wrong.
Exactly.
Or Al. Either one, you can feel free to comment
Exactly.
on our
I'm sure
Instagram.
you know.
Exactly.
So yeah, you have that little sort of meta moment, I guess.
Yes.
It's quite funny.
Yeah.
And then, and then we get sort of a lead in to what they go over to Italy for, which is to sell stolen cars to this Italian mob family that's sort of distantly related to the Sopranos.
Yep.
And it's basically like this family in the car, and then they get carjacked,
Yes.
and the guy's a racist.
I mean, he does say a racial slur.
Yes.
I always remember there's a stand-up show from Chris Rock, in which he's explaining why people shouldn't use the N-word. And he says that there's only one case in which a white person should be allowed to use the N-word. So he says like something like, "Oh, it's Christmas Eve, 11:45, and you are going to the toy store and getting the last Barbie that your daughter wants." And then comes this black guy and like steals the doll,
Right in
spits
front of
you on
you.
the face, and like all of those things. And you can only say it from 11:45 to 11:47. And if you say the N-word, that is okay. So I think in this case, what happens, I mean, I wouldn't justify it. Like, I wouldn't say that it is right to use the N-word in such a situation. But I get the frustration because, of course, like he's with his family, two kids.
It's brand new. It's a brand new car.
It's a brand new car. And then these two African-American guys.
Yeah, these two black guys.
Yeah, just like threaten him and like they point their guns at them and then they make them go away. Like they almost kidnap their dog, but they let him free.
I was so worried about the dog. I thought they were going to shoot the dog.
I thought so too, but you never kill a dog unless you're
I don't
Stephen
know, 'cause
King.
I've started to realize, I don't know, maybe not so much in TV shows, but in movies particularly, if there's a dog, it's going to either get hurt or die.
Yeah, but I guess
Have you seen Marley and Me?
I haven't.
That'll be the next one. That'll be one. Tear jerkers.
No, exactly. No, I know. Like, if
I hate that film. Why would you do that to us? Why would you kill the dog? Why would you let the dog die?
No, that is true. That is true. Whenever there's a dog in a film, something usually happens to the dog.
Yeah.
But I think that
I mean, I was really worried yesterday. There's a little insight into our lives, what's going on at the moment. We went to see Gremlins for the first time yesterday, and there's, for people who've seen it, there is a dog in that film, and I was really worried that the Gremlins were going to get the dog.
Yeah, me too. But the dog is safe. If you haven't seen the exactly, if you haven't seen the Gremlins, the dog is safe.
Exactly, you can go in.
You can go in.
I wouldn't say there's no animal cruelty.
No.
But the animals that they're doing things to are not real. So.
Exactly. So, but yeah, going back to
I know, we really went off track there.
They release the dog,
yes.
and then like they leave, and then the guy says like the N word.
Mm-hmm. But then we find out what that scene is connected to, which is that, like we said, they're trying to sell these stolen cars to this Italian mob family, basically.
Yeah.
And Carmela is upset.
Carmela is upset, of course. I mean, like we talked about last Sopranos episodes. She's starting to get quite upset. Not really having it with Tony. So I think the fact that he's going to Italy and he's not taking her with him, like throw some, I don't know if you say that in English, throw some wood into the fire or something. Is that an expression?
Not in English.
Okay. Then, but all the Spanish speakers that are listening to this, you know what I mean. But it's like, it's like stirring things up. It's like really.
There's a similar saying in English. I'm trying to think of it, but
yeah, you can comment also if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. Fuel into the fire.
Fuel into the fire.
Thank
yes, and we don't have fuel in Latin America, so we have to use
just throw wood. That's the only resource you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have plenty of fuel, so we find fuel burns better than wood.
Exactly so.
Yeah, do you think it's partly like jealousy because she wanted to go to Italy, or do you think she's nervous that he's gonna step out again?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, of course, I mean, the fact that your husband is going to Italy, one of the most romantic countries in the world, when you're gonna eat so much good food. I think it's a little bit of that, but I think it's, of course, I mean, if he cheats while they're in New Year's,
well, yeah,
it's like, okay, you're obviously gonna cheat in Italy, like on the other side of the pond. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, but she has an interesting storyline this episode.
Yes, very interesting. I think this was the first episode for me that really caught me from the beginning. Like you said that...
I would say this, I think, my favorite episode so far of this season.
Yeah, I think that this was... I was like very into it. It wasn't hard to follow who was the business. I think everything was very clear narratively.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this episode. And I think we also get to understand Carmela a little bit more and see a little bit of what we were discussing yesterday, last week.
Last
episode of that I said that we don't know really who she is, what does she like, what does she believe in, blah, blah, blah. I think with this episode, we definitely got to know her, to see a little bit, a little side of her.
Yeah. So, shall we talk about Italy first, and then talk about, because there's sort of like the Carmela storyline, which is sort of intertwined with Pussy's storyline.
Yep.
And then you've got the Italy storyline.
Yeah, let's start with Italy.
So they travel to Italy, him and Paulie and Christopher. And they meet. Well, they're expecting to meet the boss of this Naples family, but then instead they get picked up by Furio.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So this local mobster who speaks English, like very few of them speak English. So that's sort of a bit off-putting for Tony initially, I think. And then they have a meeting with some other guy.
Yes.
So they were expecting to have a meeting with Don Vittorio.
Don Vittorio. Yeah.
Excuse me if that is a bad impression. So he's usually the boss of this Naples family, but he's senile. So he's kind of, I don't know if he's got dementia or something.
Yeah.
He's not well.
Yeah, he's an old man. He's seen things.
He's lived his life.
Exactly.
So initially they have to talk to this other guy. But then Don Vittorio and his daughter Mauro. Sorry. No, that's the son-in-law.
No,
Sorry.
Exactly. Annalisa. I was
Annalisa.
like, was that her name? That's an awful name.
That's a terrible name. No, sorry, Annalisa. Come in. And you can tell, like, Tony's immediately sort of attracted to her.
I mean, she's like
Really beautiful.
Yeah, and they make sure to show you that she's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Like they put her in this very little tight dress. That accentuates her bosom.
Exactly.
So she's a really attractive woman. So of course Tony's gonna be.
Yeah. Although you also have this little moment with Paulie as well, because they obviously serving all this Italian food, and then I don't know if it's maybe spaghetti or pasta with squid ink, I'm guessing, because it was black, and he doesn't like that, so he just asks for pasta and tomato sauce, basically spaghetti and tomato sauce, and the other mobsters in Italian like mock him for being like, you thought the Germans were classless or something like that.
By the Americans.
Exactly. Because that's sort of a little sort of storyline, because I mean we can tick Christopher off. He basically he disappears.
High.
He disappears and gets
trip.
high for the entire trip. And Paulie, he really wants to connect with this Italian heritage that he has, but you can see throughout the episode that he really struggles, either because, and you know, these other Italians, like, they're either mocking him or not engaging with him. He has sex with this prostitute and tries to connect with her in a way, like she's really not interested, but he's like, oh, we come from the same village, or our families come from the same village, and things like that. So you can tell, like, he doesn't end up really, the trip doesn't turn out the way he really thought it would, but he still at the end says, oh yeah, it was great. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess being in Italy is always nice, but like he struggles with the cultural clash, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of a bit sad, melancholy.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to feel sorry for him.
He has a heart too.
So then Tony basically finds out Annalise, who's married to the actual boss, I guess. So he's in prison for life. He's not coming out again. And Tony's really, like, taken aback when he finds out that Annalisa is actually the new boss. Because he's like, well, you'd never get that in America. Like, a woman at the head of the family. But he tries to sort of negotiate with her, which initially doesn't go very well, because I think, because he wants to bring Furio over, but asks too much for the cars, I think.
Yeah, I think she's not happy with the price of the cars, and then he throws the whole Furio thing. So at the beginning, she's like, that's not a deal, and then they start to bargain, I guess.
Yeah.
To see, I think, that is because there's this problem, and the fact that I think maybe if she had been a man, it would have been like the negotiation would have been a little bit faster or like smoother, maybe.
That's true. Yeah, I guess maybe he thinks he can talk over or take advantage of her, and actually finds out that she's, very strong-headed.
She's a strong, independent woman.
Exactly.
Head of the mafia family.
But still independent and strong.
Exactly.
Does terrible things, but she's a strong, independent woman.
Exactly. Women can be anything.
Exactly. Women can be as bad.
Exactly.
Oh God, yeah. But then I think she goes up to him again later on.
Yes, eventually she approaches him again and tries to negotiate again. I think she takes him to like this oracle.
Yes,
ruins,
that's right. Yeah.
And tells him the story about this oracle that was to be like after Delphi.
The second most important oracle in Greek mythology, yeah.
Yeah, so and then they go to like these ruins and they talk, and I think eventually he lowers the price.
Yeah.
And he tells I don't remember what triggered this comment from him, but he said like, yeah, you remind me of people back home.
Someone's back home.
Someone back home, and she's like, not your wife or your girlfriend. I have one. If to answer your question, but no, it's not her either. And then
someone you want to sleep with.
Someone you exactly. She didn't. I think she said sleep with, but
yeah. Well, yeah.
And then at the beginning, I was like,
Who could that be?
Person?
It's not going to be his mom.
Is there another?
No, what else? A woman.
And I looked at Hazel. I was like, he's talking about Melfi. And I was like, yeah, no, of course he is. Who else would he be talking about? Yes. And then, like, I think eventually she asks him, "Hey, you want to live with me?" And then I think he's kind of like says that he would like to, but he said, "Hey, I don't mix business with pleasure."
Yeah, exactly.
So eventually she agrees to send Furio to work with Tony in America, and I think he also demands like other people to come as he wishes, but he lowers the price of the car. So the negotiation worked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, I guess, a successful trip.
Yeah, for Tony, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a sequence where he has like a dream of him having sex with Annalisa dressed like a Roman
I think
emperor.
a Caesar, I think.
Exactly, and
so again, I think that sort of plays in. He obviously wants to, I guess, be the dominant one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, men always want to dominate.
But yeah, that's sort of the Italy trip, isn't it?
Yes, very much.
And then we come to Carmela, who we haven't really seen much out of the house up until now.
Like you mentioned, very, very accurately.
Thank you. I do have observational skills. Yeah, so Tony's obviously on this trip away, and she goes out with these two friends of hers.
Yeah.
One of them is the wife of Pussy.
Yes.
And the other, she's also the wife of, I think, a mobster who got killed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, because they were talking about like how she's a widow now.
Exactly,
yes,
yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Exactly, because they're discussing about like Pussy's comeback.
Exactly, yeah.
And like how you must be so happy that Pussy's back, blah blah blah. And then it's like, look at me talking about how happy I am while you are there miserable because your husband just died, or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So they all think, she must be really happy, and then she sort of breaks down and says, actually, like, I really resent him coming back.
Yes, there's something that comes up then later in this episode, but that I think it was really interesting and smart or at least I interpreted it that way. But I love how I think she mentioned something like when he came back from, like when he was just released from jail, he opened the door and said, "Hey, I'm home," like if nothing had happened.
Well, when he came back.
When he came back,
Yeah.
And then we're gonna see how that
Yeah.
comes
That
back. But
reference.
so I think that's like a very
I'm home, yeah.
like a very nice detail. I don't think it's. I mean, it's like it's nice in the storytelling side and how to create meaning and
How to
convey
create
information.
parallels between characters.
Exactly, so that you understand the mental state of the other characters. But I
Exactly.
think that was like really nice. Like, yeah, she tells like he only said, "Hey, I'm home."
Yes.
Once, like if
Yes.
nothing had happened, like if okay, I was.
Exactly, yeah. But she also has this other thing on her mind, which is she found a lump in her breast.
Yes.
So she's had it biopsied, sorry.
Yep.
And she's waiting for the results. So she may or may not have cancer. But when she tells Pussy, he doesn't really seem all that interested.
Yes, exactly. Like apparently, like he maybe not. It wasn't like he dismissed it, but he just didn't give it the importance.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
that a news like that would create. That
Yeah.
would generate. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because I know, because we see Pussy then in this episode, he has one thing on his mind. Because we see him again with his informant from the FBI, and they're in this store, and then they run into Jimmy Bones,
Jimmy Bones.
who also I think knows Tony.
Yeah, he's like one of his and on his payroll. I guess.
Exactly. So obviously, and then he comes up to them and talks to them, and so Pussy gets really nervous because now they try and come up with like some kind of cover story for who this guy is, this FBI handler, but Pussy just gets really nervous now. If Jimmy says something to Tony, then he's done for.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's sort of what's on Pussy's mind basically for the episode. And then when his wife then says, "Oh, the biopsy came back, it's negative," he was like, "Oh, good." And then he leaves.
Yep.
Because he has to leave to go and smash this guy's head in.
Yes. Yes.
So he goes to Jimmy's house and beats him. But then he goes and gets some flowers for his wife, Angie. I just found out. Sorry, Angie. Yeah, he gives her these flowers, this kind of bouquet of red roses, I think it is.
Yeah.
And she just like takes them, sort of shocked for a minute, and then she just beats him with the flowers and runs back upstairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well, you can't expect that to make it all
Yes,
better now.
exactly. And we mentioned that she mentioned in the launch that she's considering.
Oh, she's considering
divorcing
divorcing him.
him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is where Carmela comes in, and that's sort of also the interesting part for her, where she basically tries to convince Angie not to divorce him because of the kids, even though the kids are grown. Or even, and they obviously draw parallels between Pussy and Angie's marriage and Tony and Carmela's marriage. Because then even there's a scene with Janice who comes in, and she sort of, I don't know, is she talking about Angie, I think? Because Carmela tells her, Angie's thinking about divorcing Pussy. And she's like, oh, thank God. Like, why would you want to be married to get to that guy? And Carmela kind of pushes back against that.
Yeah, and Janice says like she says like all these men are just hypocrites. Like you can't, like the wives cannot even look sideways, and they have like other women all around. So I think it's like very interesting to see. Maybe it's not like she. I think of course Carmela shows this resistance and goes to Angie's and says, "Hey, you you cannot break the sacred."
Bond of marriage,
which I thought, oh my God, come on, Carmela, come on.
You know better than that.
You know better than that. But I guess it also helps you understand her a little bit more now, because I think like I saw that we saw, like everyone who saw the first season, that she's very religious and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I was still surprised that she would be so like, no, you cannot divorce him because this God blessed this marriage and you shall
Yeah.
remain with him, this man. Because I mean, for me, it's like very hard to understand people that have this idea.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, it was a person like, oh, you really believe this. So like it made me understand a little bit more like, okay, so that's why you're putting up with this thing also, like part of it at least with
Yeah.
with her marriage.
Okay, I mean, that's interesting because I'm already, because it's her final line, I think, in that scene with Angie. She says, like, at the end of the day, I know you're not going to leave him. And that's when it kind of dawned, because I was sort of wondering, why are you doing this, Carmela? Why are you getting involved in this? It's none of your business. But it's sort of realizing that she sees these parallels between their marriage and her own marriage. And if I think it's more like, if Angie leaves, then what excuse does Carmela have of staying with him?
Okay. So you're think like, okay, like she has to save this marriage so that she has this excuse of staying in hers.
So, yeah, exactly. That
Okay.
she still has a reason, because otherwise, if this woman finally says enough is enough, what's stopping Carmela from doing it?
Yeah.
Because it's not only, I think, finally not putting up with Tony's shit anymore, but I also think it's her probably still not wanting to let go of this life that they have together, or finally, I guess, condemning his job, I think, or his, well, lifestyle, not so much, but, you know, then she'd actually have to admit, I think, to herself. That was my
Your yeah. I guess I think I guess we would have to see how her storyline develops. I mean, I think like both are valid. Like I said, I don't think we know her very well yet to kind of really understand her, what she wants, what are her dreams, her desires, her hopes.
Yeah, I just read it as not so much her being that religious, but rather using her religion to, I guess, manipulate her friend in the way of
so being a religious person. I believe in God, so I'm allowed to say those jokes.
Oh God.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'm also seeing it from the point of view of me being a religious. I mean, I don't know if I would call myself a religious person. Like, I believe in God, and I've been surrounded by people who believe in God and consider themselves religious.
Yeah.
So I kind of, maybe my interpretation comes from that point of view of, okay, I've seen these people. I know how people really think that this is actually, that God actually said, you shall not divorce your man or woman.
Yeah.
So maybe that is why. But since you are an atheist who will burn in hell on the final date of judgment.
I am clear-eyed in what the alternative motivation might be for this character.
Exactly, but that's why we make such a good team.
Exactly.
We appeal
You
to
bring
both
that side.
audiences.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do think, because, like I say, season 1, you know, her relationship with that priest, like, she is definitely religious.
Yeah.
And I think Catholicism is part of the reason why she's staying in this marriage. But I also think she says she recognized, you know, she knows what he does, and she chose his life anyway because it was comfortable.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I think
hypocrite.
it's just
Religious, but no, I'm kidding.
You said it, not me. So I think she kind of had alternative motives when trying to persuade her friend.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But then we have also the final scene where Tony comes home.
Yes.
And this is what you pointed out earlier.
Exactly, because I think I know he brings something, but I don't know if it's his suitcase or flowers also. No, I think it's just
bags,
a bag. And like Carmela is like on the staircase, and he opens up the door and says, I'm home. And then she kind of like stops for a second.
And it's this parallel between what her and what Angie said with
exactly, and then she stops for a second, thinks I don't know something, and then she goes back down to.
She has a thoughtful look in her eye.
Exactly.
See, and then there's a song that plays throughout the episode, and it plays again in this final moment. Conte Partiro by Andrea Bocelli.
Ah, yes, Andrea Bocelli. I know Andrea Bocelli. He's the. Do you know who he is? He's the. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing. I mean, my Italian is not that good, but I'm guessing it's "To Live with You." Conte. In English, that song is called "Time to Say Goodbye." And I'm guessing in Italian it means something like "I will live with you." All the Italian friends that are listening to this, well, we can put it in DeepL. This podcast is sponsored by DeepL. No, it's not. It's not. I wish.
I wish we had sponsors.
I wish we had sponsors.
You can still listen to this without adverts for now.
It says, with you, I will leave. That's what Conte Partiro means. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Well, I guess it's ironic then, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Particularly in that final moment.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's a song about this undying love, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's also like a little bit like this idea of the commitment of the marriage.
Exactly,
like okay,
exactly.
will you? I'll spend the rest of my days just because we signed a paper.
Exactly. No second thoughts about that. No going back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is it? What God has bonded in made no man tear apart, something like that.
Okay.
All the Catholics know what I mean. Something like that. Okay. So so that was the episode 4. Commendatori.
Exactly. Then we come to episode 5 of this season called Big
Big
Girls Don't Cry.
Big girls don't cry.
Oh God.
Shout out to Fergie, who's a big fan of this podcast.
Oh God. So we kind of start off with Chris, I think, in this episode. So we start off with him, and he's going to this brothel. Because
tanning salon.
Exactly.
AKA
I'm
a
sorry,
brothel.
tanning salon. Exactly, and the owner, it seems like, owes them money.
Yes.
Maybe they loaned them some money or something. I don't know.
Mobster stuff.
Exactly. I don't know how it works. But they don't have all of it. They have like half of it. And so.
No, I think like I don't have the money again, blah, blah, blah. And I think he kind of like maybe threatens him with something, but no, it's not very serious threat. Like, it's like, well, you don't have the money. Well, make sure to have it next time or something like that. It's something very lame, not very mobster-like.
Yeah. So instead, he does tell Tony, doesn't he, afterwards?
Exactly. I think he tells him.
He tells Tony, and then, because now Furio is there.
Yes.
And they have a big welcoming party for him. And
I was reading my notes, sorry to interrupt you.
What have you done now?
But you know how you said it was like it was a brothel, and then I said a tanning salon. But the first time that I saw the episode, it wasn't very clear to me what it was. So I wrote, Christopher visits lady casting office.
Lady casting office? What?
Like I for some reason, like what my brain processed was like it was like an office where they did casting for women, but of course it was like a front for like porn or something. I created my own story. It was later that,
it's a brothel.
Pretending to be a tanning salon. Okay, I
That
get
makes
it.
more sense.
That makes more sense.
But yeah, so the arrival of Furio kind of shakes things up
Yeah.
inside the mob family.
Yes. Yes.
Because Tony then promotes Paulie and Silvio, but he doesn't promote Pussy. And there's even this.
Don't promote pussy.
And there's even this moment in the restaurant because Tony gets Fulio a job in the restaurant.
Oh, the guy. I think this is the guy whose restaurant he burned
Blew up,
down.
yeah.
Exactly, like in the first season.
Yeah.
He has a new fancy restaurant.
Exactly.
And then he asks him, like, hey, can you please give my cousin, I think he says, like, he has he has a cousin
Yeah.
that makes mozzarella of cheese.
Yeah.
Exactly, I think it's buffalo mozzarella, what he says.
I think so.
And then he says, hey, he needs a job, so why don't you just give him one here? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's so Fulio's working in the restaurant and then he comes out and Pussy and I don't know who else he's sitting with. Some other guy.
Yeah, some. I mean, we've been really good with names this episode.
Yeah, I mean, Wikipedia's been helping a lot. So, and then there's this moment, and I think some other guy comes.
Yeah, I think it's Polly, Pussy, and then Furio comes, and then this other guy comes.
Yes,
who
you might
comes
be
out
right.
of the
Yeah.
blue.
And so then they send Pussy away.
Yeah.
So he's like eating, and he's like, "I'm eating my meal," and they say, "We'll keep it warm for you."
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck off for 5 minutes, basically.
Yeah.
And so Pussy kind of sees that as
That
a
this
betrayal. Yeah. And he's thinking like, why all these years that I stayed loyal to Tony and this is how I'm being treated now, and he's complaining again to his FBI agent.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, so that sort of disrupts sort of the inner workings, I guess, of Tony's family. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so then Tony sends food when he finds out that this brothel owner hasn't been paying them because it's like the second week or something in a row that they've only paid half.
Yes.
So he sends Fulio around and he just goes apeshit on the place and beats up the owner's wife.
Yeah,
and crashes
him
through. Yeah, breaks the doors and stuff. And
yeah, he does it. The idea that I guess everyone has of like if you don't pay the mafia what they would do to you. He really goes
exactly.
like old school mafia.
That's exactly what you would imagine. Yeah.
Exactly. Like he shoots this guy on his knee,
I think, and like breaks his arm, I think, and like punches the wife in the face several times, and then
he spits on her also. Yeah, he goes like very bananas, like my girl Gwen would say. Shout out to Gwen Stefani, who's also a big fan of the
We're acting like we know these people. We don't. We wish we did. Oh God. But yeah, so he really goes for them, and then sort of takes the money that's lying there, and they say like, okay, we'll pay you what we owe you. We'll get you the money. So that side of the business is sort of, I guess, sorted. Yeah. Furio is proving to be a useful hand. Oh, and then Tony's waiting outside in the car, and when Furio goes in and beats them up and gets a call from Melfi.
Yes, because Melfi, I think that happens also in this episode. Yeah, she's like, she continues her therapy.
Yeah, she has her own therapist, yeah.
And she tells him that, okay, she's feeling very guilty. I think she actually tells him about the dream that she had.
Yeah, so they kind of dissect this dream that she had in a previous episode where Tony has like a panic attack behind the wheel of the car and has like a car crash, and she's there and a song from The Wizard of Oz is playing.
Yeah.
And they or her therapist brings it down to her having this. She's sort of drawn to danger.
Yeah, exactly. Because I
thrills.
think he asks like, okay, what did you feel the first time? What memories does that song bring to you. And then she said like, like watching it on TV at my parents' house, like under the covers because it was scary. And then he says like, okay, why do we watch horror films or ride roller coasters? Because of the thrill of doing something dangerous without really
without the consequences.
without the consequences. And then he goes and says, well, maybe that's what this patient brings to you. Like, it's like dangerous and exciting, but it's like without consequences, and just like, without consequences.
How dare you?
Exactly. And then she was like, you know what I mean. And like she says that she is considering taking him back.
Exactly. Yeah. So when she calls him, then, because she's already rejected him before in like a previous episode, he went to her, but she rejected him, and now he sort of says, I'll think about it, or no, or I won't show up. I think she says like, I have an appointment open tomorrow, do you want to come? I'll leave it open.
Yeah
Basically. But Antonio's sort of trying to act like he doesn't need her, but I mean, this whole episode sort of very much focused on this kind of growing anger that he has, and this anxiety still, and that he gets sort of loses temper more often, because right at the beginning, I think it's he gets a call from the bank, I guess, and Janice wants to find out. Janice wants to get a loan out for the house, I think, for their mother's house.
Yeah, like to put the house as a I don't know if liability is the right word, but as a guarantee for her to take a loan or something.
Yeah. So he basically like rips the phone out of the phone out of the wall.
Yes.
But I also thought it was interesting because their son Anthony's there in the kitchen as well, and then afterwards he goes up to Anthony's room and he says something about the phone. But I found it interesting that he can't just apologize for his behavior. He has to sort of talk his way around it in front of his son.
Difficulty facing admitting mistakes, facing his errors. And,
Exactly. That's what you have to do to live a healthy life, guys.
Exactly.
This is now our new mental health podcast.
Exactly.
But so like Tony goes around to their mother's house / Janice's.
Yeah.
I guess. Sister Janice, to confront her, but then he finds Richie there.
Awkward.
Oh my god. Who, if you've listened to the previous episodes, he's like this old mobster that they knew who just got out of prison after 10 years and is Janice's ex. They used to go out when they were like teenagers, I think. And they've kind of reconnected. So Tony isn't particularly happy about seeing Richie there. And then Janice comes back, I think, in that moment. Before
yeah,
really
like
gets
they
heated.
exactly. They were like discussing, like, why are you here? Like, we're rekindling things, blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, she comes back with like shopping.
Yeah. And well, I don't know, like, because you think it's really going to escalate, but then he basically just says, "Well, she's your problem now."
Yeah, I mean, he does get a little bit like upset.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I guess what else is he going to do? He just says, yeah, she's a fucking problem now, and he just walks out. Which I'm interested to see what that will mean, if it will mean anything.
Yeah,
the fact that she's gonna be Richie's problem now. We'll see.
So in the meantime, Tony also talks to this other associate of his, Hesh. I'm finding out that's his name.
Hesh, yes.
Hesh. Talking to him about these panic attacks that he's been having, or this anger management problem. And he finds out that actually his father, who was the boss before him, actually also suffered from panic attacks like once or twice a year. So that's sort of new information for him, which is then something he tells Melfi then as well in their session.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, a little bit like what the job does to you. I also think it's also interesting that I think everyone, like we were talking about it, about fame, that everyone wants like the power and the money, but you don't really want the consequence.
Actual fame.
Exactly. I think it must be a little bit similar to the mobster and the power. I mean, I guess everyone likes the idea of having all this power.
Yeah.
But I think like you always have to look over your shoulder, and because it's a very dangerous
Yeah, I guess
position
you
to
always
be
have
in.
to spend most of your time sort of paranoid and
Yeah.
watchful, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's not included in the glamorized version of mobster bosses. So I think it's quite interesting to see. Okay, like it's not you; it's something maybe from the job, maybe from your family. Maybe it's just your family
Yeah.
that is broke. No, again.
Yeah. But I guess it sort of breaks that stigma, I guess, a bit
Yeah.
for Tony,
Yeah,
finding
yeah.
out that he wasn't the only one who's had this problem, but his
Yep.
dad had this problem as well.
Yeah, I think it gives him also like a little bit of a relief, right? To find out that it's not me. It's like my dad also had it. So I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that's
This guy who I really admired, who was like the manliest man, I guess.
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have this parallel, these two men who can't, I guess, deal with their emotions, because on the other hand on the one hand obviously you have Tony, and then in the parallel storyline you have Christopher, who his girlfriend Adriana has like bought him this acting course, because as we found out in the first season, he really wants to write like a screenplay. And so Adriana bought him this acting course to help him with his writing, to better understand like characters and things like that. And he's a bit what shall we say, skeptical.
Yes.
First of all, when he comes to his first class, but then he actually kind of really gets into it.
Yeah. I think that was maybe my favorite storyline of the episode. To see how, he comes very like a little bit with doubt about whether this is gonna work or not, and then he does a really good job.
Yeah.
I
mean,
mean,
he has this moment where, because we keep getting these scenes between him and Adriana, and she's helping him go through his lines, and he's not particularly happy with one scene. So then he asks the teacher to switch, and he gets a scene from Rebel Without a Cause, which he does really well, because then he's basically like, I think he's playing James Dean part, and then he's crying like at the feet of the character's father, and they're all like really amazed and applaud, and the one guy who just fell over, got shot in the eye.
There are like 4 people in the scene. You said, okay, they probably all play
have some
a role.
lines.
Now this guy just dies.
No, he just gets shot right at the beginning. He just has to lie there.
Like, that is worth whatever you paid for this course.
You really had to rehearse that, I'm guessing, didn't you? Sorry, I digress. But I just found,
it's really funny.
That was funny. But and then so everyone's applauding, and then one of the students, I think, asked him like how he managed to cry like that, how he got that performance, and he gets upset and just walks out. And then the next course, they do this exercise where it's two of them in pairs at the front of the class, and one of them only gets to say A, and the other one only gets to say B. So it's sort of practicing expressing an emotion, I guess,
beyond
or a feeling
words.
without words, exactly. And so the actor that Christopher is paired up with is the same guy who played the father in the previous scene, and so he just says A, and then Christopher just beats the shit out of him out of nowhere.
Yeah, they had to stop him, and then
and then he walks out.
Leaves,
and like he kicks him as well and breaks his own toe. And then at home, Adriana is icing his toe, and they're sort of talking. And I think he's basically just like, he wants to give up on the acting course, and she gets really upset because she was like, I've seen how miserable you are with not getting your writing done. I was so excited when I saw this course and got it for you. And but she also sort of recognizes and points out that maybe the reason he got upset was that this character, or this father character, reminded Chris of his own dad. I can't remember what they said. Did we ever find out what happened to Chris's dad?
I don't remember if we saw it before.
I mean, it just says he died when he was young.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, she says like, it reminds you of your own complicated relationship with your father and how you have these feelings all bottled up.
Yeah, because she then points out, writing is about feelings. It's about emotions. You have to be able to sort of connect to that.
Yeah.
And then very sadly, we sort of see Chris later on, and he basically just throws all of his
Writing
scripts
things,
and floppy disks.
Floppy disks.
Good old times. In the bin, basically in the rubbish bin, and takes it out and throws it in the trash. So he's like obviously far too scared now to sort of engage with those emotions. If he, so he just gives up on his writing.
Yeah. I hope he takes it back. He reassumes his writing things in the future.
Yeah.
Because writing is a beautiful process.
It's a tough,
painful
process.
Exactly, but it's worth it. Yes. But I think that was a very interesting storyline and a really nice way to present it. Also, like to get to know a little bit more of Christopher.
Yeah.
So I think it was really nice.
Yeah, because I guess you have this parallel between, I guess, this hard-ass persona of him being a mobster.
Yeah.
And then the emotion.
Yes.
Of being, the vulnerability of being an actor.
An artist.
An
artist. Yes.
Exactly. So then we move on to episode 6 now, The Happy Wanderer.
The Happy Wanderer. We mention that Tony eventually does go to his appointment with Dr. Melfi. Like she opens up in the last episode.
Yeah.
Did we mention it? If we didn't, now it is. Now
it's in. Yeah, no, Tony does go to Melfi's appointment.
Yeah.
Like she leaves it open and then she opens the door and there he is.
There he is.
He knew he had to deal with it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess you have those kind of two interesting parallels, that you have Tony, who's the boss, who's actually ready to engage with his emotions,
his feelings,
with his anger and everything, and Christopher just isn't at the moment.
Yeah, I'm guessing like maybe Christopher. I mean, of course, he's not ready, but also maybe the reason why, or part of the reason why he's not ready, is that maybe he's younger. Maybe he thinks he can deal, or he doesn't have to deal with his emotions, so he doesn't have to face them. So he's like a little bit more proud.
Yeah.
And maybe Tony has already seen the benefits also.
I mean, I don't know, because I think to me it's just the fact that Christopher gives up on the writing completely, to me says that he's scared.
Yeah, exactly. Like he doesn't want to face
He just
those
doesn't
things.
want to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But Tony has already benefit a little bit from
I guess so.
I have seen the power of therapy.
Exactly. Well, I guess it's him recognizing that it's having real life effects on him, his family, his business, and so on with these anger issues and things. So he recognizes he has to deal with it, as opposed to Chris, who I guess he doesn't. I guess he doesn't recognize it causing problems in his daily life yet. I guess. Yeah. There you go. That is episode 5 now.
Exactly. Thank you so much for listening, Anka.
Yeah, so now we do move on to episode 6, The Happy Wanderer.
Yes.
And so I guess the main storyline this episode starts off with they're at Meadows High School. So Tony's daughter, Meadow, is in high school and they're talking about colleges.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like how you should
what you need to apply.
Yeah, and how you should have like all of this extracurricular activities in order
to stand out.
blah blah blah.
Get your stuff in order and so. And so Tony gets talking to. He obviously knows there's the father of Meadows and a friend of Meadows there, and they obviously know each other because the kids are friends.
Yeah, David or Davy.
David.
Yeah.
That's the father. So and then Tony and David have like a sort of a quiet moment in the hall, and then it turns out David knows what Tony's into, basically, what he does. But it turns out it seems like a gambler.
Yes.
He has like a gambling problem. And he wants to ask Tony if he can take part in one of his poker games, poker nights. And Tony initially is like, no, I don't want you to get involved with that. Like, I like you, you're a nice guy, but it can get rough, basically. But that doesn't really stop David.
Yeah.
Because then we see David at one of Richie's games instead, this other mobster. But he loses like $8,000, I think, something like that. And then Richie shows up at David's store. He owns like a good store, a sporting goods store. Asking for.
I thought he has a good store.
He has a good store.
Nice.
Oh at least it's a good store. that makes up for the gambling debt.
Exactly.
So then Richie comes along and wants his money, and David only has a part of it.
Yeah.
I think he still owes him like $2,000 or something. And so then Richie says, no more poker games for you until you pay me my money.
Yes.
But David can't let it go.
He's a gambler at the end of the
He is
day.
a gambler addict. Gambling addict.
He's addict to gamblers. He's like an eating disorder for cannibals, you know. When cannibals are like addicted to gamblers.
Exactly.
Because they have more adrenaline, you know, it changes the flavor.
We've been watching too many cannibal movies recently.
Yeah.
Right, and then Tony spends a lot of his time setting up this big poker night at this hotel, I think. Furo goes around and organizes it, and it's basically, I think it's like 24 hours or 48 hours.
Yeah, it's like something very long.
yeah, like a whole day or 24 hours or something. And so they're all playing there, or Tony's watching over this game being played, and then David shows up. Yes, sort of out of the blue, acting like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." Oh, well, you know, trying to play.
Yeah, I was in the neighborhood.
I was in the neighborhood. Sure, but so then he manages to convince Tony to let him in on this game, and then he again gets into debt. Like a lot of that's right. He doesn't have. That's right.
Like
Tony says you need like 5,000 to join, and he says he doesn't have it. But can Tony lend him like 10 grand?
I thought that was so stupid of Tony.
I know.
Come on, Tony. You know better.
You know better. But Tony says yes, and then Tony at some point falls asleep, and then when he wakes up, David's like $45,000 in debt because he said, "Oh yeah, Tony will lend me the money," and Tony is not pleased about that. But then things escalate even further when Richie shows up and sees David there, and he's like, "What are you doing here? Like,
you motherfucker!
You motherfucker! You still owe me whatever, $2,000 or something."
Exactly. And
nearly beats him up, but Tony gets in the way and sends Richie away, and also basically tells him like, you're not going to get your money from him until I get my money back from him.
Yes.
Which once again Richie's not happy about.
Yes.
So then David's story continues because he obviously doesn't have the $45,000 that he owes Tony, and then eventually Tony goes to his store.
Yeah, I think it went, like at first I don't think he thought Tony would do something. He thought, oh, we're friends.
We're friends, he'll let me off the hook.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, no, he's not gonna have it. Because then Tony goes to the store and beats the shit out of him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because Tony comes in and says, "Oh, you thought you could leave when one of my men came round to collect."
Exactly.
So David does seem to have, he does seem to be aware that he owes his money, but he obviously, like you said, maybe didn't expect that kind of reaction from Tony.
Exactly.
So now he's in deep doo-doo.
You've never sounded so badass in your life.
That's my constant aim, to sound badass.
Yeah.
But so now David's like really struggling because he's panicking and thinking, okay, where can I get this money from? And first he goes to the restaurant owner that Tony knows. He said, "Oh, can I borrow some money, like 20,000?" And the guy says, "Sorry, like I'm gonna need to have our roof done."
Yeah.
And when he finds out he owes money to Tony, he's like, "Oh, shit."
Yeah.
And so then when David gets home, he then sees the car of his son Eric, and basically like comes up with an excuse for, I guess, like sort of punishing Eric and saying, "Oh, you damaged it or something." Or you
I think it's like it's something dumb, like it's full of mud.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like,
like
okay.
he can't be trusted with it, and I'm gonna take it away. And Eric's obviously like really upset about that. But then so David then takes the car to Tony as sort of like a down payment.
Yes.
And what does Tony do?
He gives it to Meadow.
Meadow.
But I think that was also very smart in terms of like the visual storytelling. The fact that before, because we'll get to that storyline a little bit later, we've seen Meadow already in that car.
Yeah.
So she knows this car. So as soon as
we see Eric pick her up,
exactly, and then as she gets in the car, she realizes this is David's car. Mm-hmm. So she realizes, okay, there's something going on here.
Yeah, she gets really upset about it. And so then she gets into a fight with Tony. But he says, like, I'm the one who works to pay for everything you've ever had and stuff like that. And then it sort of like escalates even further, like at the end where they all go, because as part of this extracurricular activities for college, Meadow's taking part in this singing.
It's like a cabaret
show,
night.
Yes.
Something like that at school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she wanted initially to have a solo, to sing a solo, but for some reason, like
they give it
to another girl, and they make her sing with David's son
Eric. Yeah.
With Eric. So I think she's like, okay, I'll have to do it.
I'll do
Fine.
it. So they're all sitting there, like Carmela and Tony and Anthony, and then they also see Janice and Richie and his mother come in, which makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then behind the scenes, Eric is like really upset with Meadow because he's worked out what's gone on.
I think she told him probably.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
And so he storms out and says you can do it on your own. So inadvertently, Tony's actions sort of helped her.
Yeah, like
get that solo.
Yeah, like I wrote like, did she do it on purpose?
I hadn't thought about that.
But maybe, I mean, I don't think anything in the show tells you that she might have done it on purpose. But it did raise that question in my head. Like, did she tell him?
But then she would have to expect that kind of a reaction.
Yeah. That's why I said like, maybe that's not the reason. But it did was like, and Carmela, I think she says it. Right?
Yeah.
That worked out well. So I think that was the line that made me because she is manipulative.
Yes, Meadow can be, yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't think in the context of her father's actions of what Tony does,
no.
I don't think she approved. I mean, that's literally like why she gets upset that he literally took this car from Eric.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think that's what it is. But I think it would be interesting to see
Yeah,
if she develops into this manipulative young lady.
This young lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's sort of the main storyline, and then you also have Tony in his therapy sessions with Melfi again. And he kind of starts off by saying that he's just angry with everyone at the moment. Like, he just wants to, any happy person he sees, like, he says, like, I shouldn't care, but I just want to punch them and strangle them or whatever, and I'd like to beat you up. And that he wants to go back to, because he mentioned in season 1 that he mentioned the sort of ideal kind of masculinity that he admired, like Gary Cooper, like the old types, you know, and he resents that he's having to go to therapy, I think, now. Like, he's one of those weaklings, I guess.
Yeah, he's I think he said something, I hate what you've done with me. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess also in line with what he found out last episode with his father having some panic attacks. He also finds out from Junior that he actually had another uncle secretly, Air Cole, who we didn't know about, but apparently he was, as Junior puts it, slow,
yeah.
that he was sort of mentally challenged, and they put him away, and because they didn't understand it at the time either. So I guess like figuring out how imperfect, I guess, the men in his family were, or his family in general, dealing with mental struggles.
Yeah.
You know, because I think also, doesn't he? I think he says, I don't know if it's this episode or last episode, he says to Melfi, like, after finding out about his dad's panic attacks, like, isn't there a test you can do? Like, he thinks it's some kind of like genetic thing. His father that got passed down. So I think he's just like struggling with, I guess, these weaknesses in the family. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this was for me. I think I really enjoyed all 3 episodes. I think this one was for me the one that I thought was very the most interesting or more dynamic, I would say.
Okay, yeah.
Like I like all these storylines. Like I said, I think like all of these 3 episodes were really good, but I think this one was the one that got me more interested.
Okay.
Like I wanted to see what happened to David, why Tony agreed to loan him the money and everything.
Yeah, I think the episodes that are the most interesting have the most different storylines, the most different most characters.
Yeah, intertwined.
Yes, that's the word. Thank you. So that's why I think I enjoyed the episode in Italy so much, because there was just a lot of episodes and a lot of sort of side plots going on.
Yeah.
In Italy and then back home, and how they sort of intertwined, and you have the parallels and things. So I think those are the strongest episodes for me, because you focus a lot on all these different characters and their struggles.
Yes, their hopes and dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so strong season so far.
Strong season so far. We've still had 6 more episodes to
Isn't
go.
it 7? I think it's 13.
Okay,
so we have
7.
to do 4 at the end.
Okay, so that's a little preview for you. But yeah, I'm excited. I think like I with these 3 episodes, I finally got really into the show. I think like up until then, I was like, okay,
yeah,
let's see what's the whole thing.
I mean, the first season was interesting because, I mean, this is a show, because we talk about it in our first season. Check it out. I went because it's obviously like this show that's hailed as like the start of the golden age of TV and anti-heroes and things, and I was expecting it to be simpler, I guess, than what it is, or less complex, you know, because it was right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was interesting seeing the complexity of it, but yeah, I think I had a harder time getting into it than this season. I genuinely feel like, oh, okay, I want to watch the next episode.
Yeah.
I didn't have that strong urge last season yet.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's building on its characters and its strengths.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the next 3 episodes.
Mm.
And I'm also excited to come back to our regular concept next week.
Already regular scheduled programming.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it was fun. This 3 episodes. I'm sorry. I'm very hungry. I don't know.
We won't keep you any longer.
Yeah, you probably didn't hear, but like here in the studio.
Yeah, I heard it.
Yeah, you
that
heard
was a
it.
proper rumble. A rumble in the jungle.
Exactly. But no, I think it was. I'm having fun watching The Sopranos.
Yeah. So what have our listeners? What can our listeners look forward to? What's our next topic that we've got?
Okay, so next week our theme for our regular concept is gonna be movies with an animal in them.
Is it talking animals? I think. Did we say talking animals or just real life animals?
No, I think it's like animals. Oh my god.
We really need to cut this short because she's like really starving here in front of me.
Let's do it animals. Like
Okay.
it can be talking animals or non-talking animals. The important thing
Okay.
is that it has an animal.
An actual animal,
An
not
actual-
an animated animal.
No, I think it's better like a real animal.
Yeah. It's good that we're clarifying this on the air rather than so our audience really know. We're really, breaking it down. And
Exactly.
yeah, so that's sort of our next topic is films,
With animals.
live action films
Live
with
action
animals.
with animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you
And
know
I've
already?
got, I know. And it's a film that I watched a lot when I was a kid. I won't give it away yet.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's going to be if it's going to hold up, honestly.
Okay, well, those are the best episodes.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Do you know?
I already know. I don't know where we're going to be finding it. It's also a film that I watched a lot. I think probably a lot of people of my generation watched it a lot.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know. It
It makes me laugh, like people of your generation. Like we're 5 years apart. It's not.
I mean, sometimes we don't have the same references as
true.
you have
That's true.
very mean pointed out before.
I know, I don't have any 90s references. Like you were born at the start of the 90s.
Let
I
me
was born
see.
at the end.
I don't know what year that movie is from. Let me see. The first one was in 1992, so the year I was born.
Oh, so it's a franchise.
Yeah, it's a friend. I think it's at least. Oh, there's a lot actually, but I only saw the first 2.
Okay.
Jesus. Exactly the version because we're gonna watch the second one of the
Okay.
of the
You're gonna have
franchise.
us miss out on.
It's not that important. It's
Okay,
not that
okay.
important. I mean, you can watch the second one without knowing without watching the
okay.
first one, and there's no like a continuance of anything.
Oh, okay.
And so that one is from 93. The one that we're gonna watch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So 4 years before you were born.
Yeah, I imagine that.
Imagine that. That was produced quite fast after the first one.
Yeah, I was going. You said 92 and then 93.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's when you have like a really great film.
Yeah.
You just have to make it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm excited to rewatch this film. It's been a lot of years since I watched it.
Same for me.
So,
Yeah.
can you tell us what kind of animal? Yeah, I think I know what.
It's
what
a
animal.
dog.
Okay, mine is also a dog.
Yeah. That really doesn't narrow it down.
Let's see what Mr. Hagedorn
Yeah, exactly.
brings.
I will say, well, I'll give a little clue.
Yes.
In that it is an early, so it's from the 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it's on Disney Plus.
Mm.
And it has sort of a pre-Game of Thrones appearance
Okay.
from Peter Dinklage.
So all your Game of Thrones fans,
Yes.
this is definitely the film for you.
Exactly. Please come and listen if you're into Game of Thrones. I'm sure
sure
you'll
you
get a
will.
lot out of it. Oh god. Yeah, it has it doesn't say the Rotten Tomatoes, because I think it has a really bad reviews
Oh,
on
really?
Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah.
I don't know what mine has in Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Jesus.
Mine has 15%. So
Okay, this is not that bad. Mine has 23.
yeah.
Oh, but how? This is an endearing film.
I mean,
You people on Rotten Tomatoes don't know what you're doing.
you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I'll see. Maybe I'll agree with critics, maybe not. Who knows? Like I say, it's been a while, so
Oh, God.
it's probably been about 10, 12 years since I saw it.
I love how it suggested me, like, I'm guessing based on how bad the review this film is, it suggested me, like, also very bad reviewed films. It's like, you might also like, what's his name? Crocodile Dundee 2 with 9%.
Wow.
Jesus Christ and a crack.
See, I thought those films were quite liked, weren't they? Or maybe I'm just getting this from.
I mean, to be
I've never
fair,
seen them.
to be fair, probably this, the people who are voting on this film probably are not from my generation. Let's see. We'll watch the film and we can tell
Exactly.
whether we agree with the Rotten Tomatoes thing review.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can watch A Case of Once Bitten, Twice Shy. I don't know what that means.
What, this is Crocodile Dundee?
No,
2?
no, this is the film that I'm gonna
okay.
be. More of the same does not a good sequel make.
Oh, great.
I'm gonna.
Oh, I see now why you said you don't need to see the first one, because it's the first one.
Exactly. I'm gonna read you I'm gonna give you a synopsis of a flash synopsis.
Oh god.
Boring family adopts massive dog minus the laugh track, volume 2. If that doesn't tell you what the movie is,
man.
nothing will.
I think I might know. Jesus.
Oh, God.
Well, there you go, folks. So that's your teaser
Exactly.
for the next few weeks.
Exactly. And I'm curious as to what Mr. Hagdorn will bring.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but thank you so much.
Maybe it will be Marley and me.
No. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it, but
we get to
I don't
cry.
know.
I'd like to see if you can cry.
That's the thing.
I don't think I've really seen you cry that often. At least not in front of a movie.
Yeah, no, I don't really cry in films. I cried my eyes out with Soul, but I was here alone.
No,
there is a way I cry. I don't know. He doesn't seem to have that kind of a heart to cry on a film like Marley and Me.
That's the thing, right? He doesn't seem like a crier.
Yeah, I don't know. He'll bring Cuyo or something. I don't think he will bring Cuyo either.
God.
I don't know what film can he bring.
That's not just dogs, you know. They don't just make films with dogs. It could be any other animal.
But I mean, what other animals?
Babe. Who knows?
Oh, Babe! Yeah,
I've never seen Babe. So.
Oh, I've seen the second one. It's quite cool. Well, I
Okay.
remember it being quite cool. It's like he brings snakes on a plane.
Oh God.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, well,
Yeah,
that is it, folks. But as always, thank you so much for listening. Remember to follow us on Instagram at elevator_pod, P-O-D, as in podcast.
Please do.
Exactly. And thank you so much. Do you have anything to say?
Thank you. Just what a lovely person you are.
Aww.
And what an honor it is to make these episodes with you.
Likewise. Thank you, everyone. And until next week.
Until then. See you then. Bye.
Bye.
If you like this episode, why not hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss another episode? And if that's still not enough, you can follow us on Instagram at elevatorpitch_pod to stay up to date with all the latest news.